This is the Local Real Estate Developer Podcast, where we share the stories of locals across the country who took that empty lot or that old building and turned it into something awesome that their community needs. I'm Kristi Kandel, and I've been a real estate developer my entire career. My co-host Raphael is a commercial broker, and together we're sharing the stories of locals making a huge impact on their communities. And what we've learned is you don't need millions in the bank or decades of experience to get started. You just need the confidence, tools, and the right people around you. This podcast is your chance to gain the confidence to get in the game, because real estate development isn't just for the insiders anymore. It's for people like you too.
Welcome to the Local Real Estate Developer Podcast. I'm your co-host, Raphael, located here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a commercial broker, investor, and new developer of commercial properties in our region. And I'm here with Kristi Kandel, developer extraordinaire, and she's got some exciting news. I know that she can't share now, but she will eventually, and it's going to be really exciting. So.
Oh yeah, just finished a really great meeting. Yeah, so I'm a developer investor. I also teach locals how to become developers in their community. And today I actually met our guest in another real estate group. We were talking on a previous pod with Katie about just putting yourself in the right room opens so many doors to people. So today we'd like to welcome Jeremiah Parker to the show.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So I'm up here. I'm in Central Wisconsin, a real estate broker, also a real estate investor, local developer, former W-2 employee. Love to share experiences, and I hope to encourage those both locally and across the nation that, hey, anybody can do this.
Definitely. No, I think, and we kind of talked a little bit offline about your background to kind of get a feel for, how you got into the space. And it seems to me like a path that a lot of people follow, where they have a career for a while and then they start dabbling in investing and they start doing more and more things. And at a certain point, it just makes sense for them to either jump full time into investing. In your case, you'd been in real estate, not only as an investing side, but also on the brokerage side. And now you seem to be doing that full time, which is kind of a similar path that I followed. I was in a W-2 career for a while, bought a fourplex, house hacked it, and then I jumped into brokerage. And then I've been doing that for about 6 years now. So it seems like a somewhat similar path in that respect. But I'm kind of curious about what made you decide to kind of jump into it full time, because it is kind of, again, it's when you have a paycheck coming every 2 weeks, it's nice to have that stability versus a career like brokerage that is exclusively dependent on what you can produce. So I'm just kind of curious, what was that transition point, and what was that decision making for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also a family man. I got 4 kiddos at home, and a beautiful wife and everything. And since we've been together, I was a career firefighter paramedic here in Central Wisconsin for 14 years. Stepped away this last March. That is all my wife and I have known. So that schedule, so we were doing 24-hour shifts, on, off, sometimes 48, sometimes 72 is where I'd be gone from home. That schedule, then on top of that, first couple of years as a broker, I was as an agent, I was building up my clientele, but I got into top producer status in this area pretty quickly within the first 3-4 years. I've been doing that real estate brokerage side for about 10. So doing that, doing the firefighting, being a father, a husband, and then also we started in the investing world in about the last 5 years. And so starting to manage flips. And biggest thing I was realizing is I needed teams. I need to be able to delegate and build out systems and processes that help alleviate me being the bottleneck. So, but to make that jump, the biggest thing is I was exhausted. I was stressed out. It was affecting my relationship with my wife, my kids. And we had to choose what irons we were going to keep in the fire. And it took way too long to make that decision, and trust in the abilities that God has given me and my family and my wife as an encourager and everything in our business to continue to grow. So yeah, lots of prayer. And I think it was 2-3 years too long of not making that jump. So I've been told by a couple mentors.
And was that just a hesitation? Was it just the hesitation of, oh crap, like this is a huge risk, and it's not just you've got a spouse and kids and like.
Yeah.
Yep. It was all of that.
And mostly just saying that
Yeah, and I think the other part too was 3 years ago, the economy was in a really interesting space in the real estate world. We were seeing just numbers that were just exploding, and it didn't quite make sense to a lot of people coming out of COVID. We saw the huge jump, and then we saw the huge, kind of slowdown. I'm still currently right now, I mean, God's been able to bless us with the clientele and stuff that we've been able to do help here locally. But I know a lot of agents and agents in our office that are hurting real bad because the amount of transactions that are taking place have slowed down drastically. And so that's been, yeah, I think just trusting in the abilities that God has given us and just to push through. There are days you just got to grind. I mean, yesterday I was up at 5 in the morning. I didn't get home 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So it's just, there are times that you have to sacrifice if you want to build out a business and really be able to provide for not only our current family, but my goal is future. I want to provide for my kids. I want to provide for my grandkids and great grandkids, and hopefully, continue to build out something that can be a legacy here in this country.
Great.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's an obligation for sure. I think that's I would say that's what we're called to do. So I think that's amazing that you're willing to push for that, because it is one of the greatest things you can leave the next generation is to provide them with the opportunities that maybe you didn't have when you were when you were growing up. So I think that's really admirable. I think one thing I'm curious about is, that initial jump into investing and really getting into flips and construction, because it's one thing to sell real estate, but it's another thing to own and operate a real estate. So I know a lot of brokers out there that have been selling real estate for years and they don't own any real estate, which has always been kind of surprising. It's been a shock to me. I'm just like, how can you properly advise someone without having gone through that experience yourself? Because it's very easy to say, oh yeah, just do this. When in reality, if you actually have owned it and you've gone through that experience, you may think twice about advising in certain instances. I'm kind of curious, what was that moment where you decided, hey, it's time for us to jump in and take on our first project?
Yeah, so I've been a broker or agent at that point for 3 years, and I got sucked in, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you know how it all goes, right? And then started listening to Bigger Pockets at that point, Bigger Pockets podcast, and hours upon hours upon hours of just podcasting. Any time that I could get, that's what I was listening to. And I think it gave me the motivation and the push to make that step. And also really getting to know my in-laws became a big help in that as well too, where I would say, if there's something that I had lucky or God ordained, whatever you want to call it, having 8 brother-in-laws, which 6 of them are in the trades and live locally, that helped a lot in risk management of jumping into flips, knowing that I could probably build out a team very quickly, and or if I can't use them, they know the answers that we would be able to, kind of push through. So risk mitigation was my first strategy in doing our first flip. Our first flip was probably the riskiest one that we've done and the most trial-filled one. We were ripping out floor joists. We were repairing foundations. A lot of newbie mistakes. We still ended up coming out ahead on that one, which was good. We rented it out for a few years and then sold it. But yeah, it was a lot of work. I swung the hammer a lot in that one. And but jumping in, getting over that fear. I mean, you hear it all the time. Fear, 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 fear. If you can take fear head on, that is where it's got to be. Willing to step into that. I also look at fear as something that if you can change your mindset of being excited, if you can change that emotion from fear to excitement, because on the other side of that fear is growth. On the other side of fear is a new you, a new version of you, that is only going to make you a better person, make you a better father, make you a better husband, make you, a better coworker, whatever it may be. But it's going to make you a better version of you every time you face fear. So I get excited when fear kind of creeps in a little bit. I get excited because I know that there's going to be a new version of me on the other side of that after I push through that.
I couldn't agree with you more, because it's, to me, yeah, now when I feel the butterflies and I feel uncomfortable, I'm like, it's just because it's uncomfortable because I haven't done it before. It doesn't mean that someone else hasn't done it. It doesn't mean that it can't be done. I just haven't done it. So that's my body warning me, going, hey, this is something new. And I agree. I now literally smile, because that does all the things. And I go, I'm about to grow right now. Like, this is cool. Like, let's give this a shot, because yeah, all these things could go wrong. But I really love the quotes that basically say, yeah, but what happens if and when they go right? And the huge upside that's there. All the amazing things we have in our communities and world are because people said, you know what? Yeah, what if?
Yep. Agreed. And I think there's always that story too of, I think I don't know if I think I heard Brandon Turner say this. He was like, oh, the uncle stories. I don't know if you guys have heard this at all, where it's like, oh, my uncle once owned a rental property and he got screwed and da 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 da. And it creates that whole level of fear. And it's like, yeah, there's a ton of uncle stories, but there's even more success stories that people aren't attaching to and helping them move through that fear. So I like to remove both of those, the uncle stories and the success stories, and just focus on, okay, how am I going to respond at the other side of this fear? How am I going to grow? And how can I impact other people through that whole aspect of life? I don't know. So.
No, and I think too, most people, and this is just natural instinct, most people don't think through what the opportunity cost of not making a decision is. They think, oh, well, this is probably not a right opportunity for me. But then they look back after 10 years and they say, oh, wow, like if I had just started when I thought I was going to start to begin with, where would I be today? And so, oftentimes you have to go through that exercise anytime there's an opportunity, because, maybe there's a voice in your head talking you out of it because for whatever reason, maybe it's a limiting belief or some form of a person in your life that has just been kind of pressing you against moving forward with something like that. But you got to think about also, if you don't make that decision, where are you going to be in 10 years? It's that type of mentality. So I think it's important to also have that as a framework. So
absolutely agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more. 100%. I just had a conversation the other day with another investor, and we were talking about, hey, what would it look like if we went in together and bought, a few larger multi-unit properties, and how do we want to hold it? And we talked about, okay, we'd want to hold it for a minimum of 5 years if there wasn't really value add, and just, kind of be hands off with management. That makes the most sense. And both of us kind of like, it just went quiet for a second. And 5 years, I'm 36 right now. That'd be 41 years old when we would even be readdressing how we want to manipulate what we created in that product. I'm like, I'm not saying 41's old, people, but it just felt like a long time. And it's like, why are we not starting now? If we keep pushing this off, 5 years adds up really quick. And so that's, him and I both said, it's like, okay, we can keep saying 5 years, but when are we going to make that step? And so we're hoping to be able in the springtime to be able to really sit down and pound out stuff and see if we can acquire something here this next spring/summer on that front. So
I love it. Love it. Okay, so you clearly have the mental game you're dialed in on, and I'm sure still constantly improving. Your first flip was the worst and the most scary. How did you go from that to then getting into development for the first time?
Yeah, so it came down actually to my brother-in-law. So we did end up building a team together. They were building multi-million-dollar homes down around Branson. And I was able to suck them up here to do our flips. And then we got to the point of they were down there building new construction. I was bringing them up here to do flips. Well, our flips in central Wisconsin tend to be fieldstone foundations, true 2x4 construction. And they're like, like, if we're going to be doing anything, we're going to be doing new construction because it just takes too much extra time and effort into the remodels and the flips of these older homes. And so that's what kind of started us down the path of having those conversations. And at that point, I was kind of telling Raphael off air a little bit before, just we actually lost our main GC, which main brother-in-law, he got killed in a car accident unexpectedly. And so it kind of shook us a little bit. We were starting to go down the new construction route, and it killed us for 6-8 months. What all right, God, like, what do you want us to do here? One of the other brothers decided to step up and kind of fill that role. And we started getting those gears turning again. And so we ended up finding 20 acres, literally a mile and a half down the road from our current house. And we split that 20 acres into 4 lots, and we built 4 homes on that property. So big picture, the brother-in-laws, that team that was really swinging the hammers, the on-site construction, they're the ones that pulled us into the new construction realm. I think the other part that kind of started that, curiosity in that realm too, was we were getting slower and slower on flips here in central Wisconsin. We only have so many properties, the quote unquote properties that had the equity build that we could get into it, fewer and fewer, or they were costing more and more. And we have not had one flip where we haven't put less than $50,000 into the flip. So we're doing extensive remodels in all of our flips. So we're adding bathrooms, we're gutting out kitchens, we're moving walls, we're every single one that we've done has been that way. It hasn't
So
been
you're already pulling permits, you're already working with structural, you're already doing all the trades. So it's like at that point, okay, well, development is not that much harder. I mean, maybe the subdivisions, what was that process like to divide the land?
Yeah, subdivisions, for us, I think the biggest thing is knowing your town and county ordinances first before you jump into that, because that plays a huge role in what you can develop out without having to go and get stuff rezoned and having to go before boards and present stuff and convince people. And here in central Wisconsin, we're still good old boys club. You've got 6 generations of farmers in our area. And to come in and say, hey, we're going to take a 20-acre chunk and we're going to slap 4 homes on. Yeah, we didn't make really good friends with the neighbors. Just being honest. Like, I think they've calmed down now because they know that we're also live just down the road and everything. But it did not make a lot of good friends. But as for the overall going through the process, I think that's the biggest thing. The other part is a lot of paperwork and a lot of emails. It's not just swinging a hammer and putting a structure up. There's a lot of permits. And we have different permits. We have DNR permits for our wells. We have permits for our septic systems. We have permits for the residential structure. We have permits for the detached storage structures. And then we have all the different inspections that play into it as well too. So there's a lot to learn. I learned a lot in those 4 chunks, and I continue to learn because there's also the whole process of new construction is different than flips. It just is. You have so many different phases that you need to have material sitting there ready to go for that next phase. Otherwise, you're going to start seeing delays. And it's the same thing with the permits. In permits and the getting the land ready for all your entitlements and getting it ready for building. You delay any of that, it delays. That delay keeps adding up for that entire build out. So having all that stuff organized is key.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and this is something I personally don't have a ton of experience on the ground up construction side. I'm just starting to get into adaptive reuse of some commercial properties here locally in my market here in Louisville. So yep. I'm starting to learn many of the things you guys probably already know. And it's been fun, but also been somewhat stressful.
Oh, and they pop out at you because you're like, wait, what? That was something?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think too, kind of going to the partnership side, it's important to team up with people who know certain things that you don't. Like in my case, a lot of the projects that we're taking on, I'm the person going out there and finding the tenants. So I'm calling restaurant owners, I'm calling daycare owners, I'm calling people and DMing them on Instagram and creating opportunity for us to be able to identify a tenant to then place within the property. And then the business partners that I've chosen to affiliate with have a little bit more of that construction understanding. They've either are themselves contractors. One of my business partners on a deal is an electrical contractor, but he's done large commercial construction projects like Fresh Market and some of these other larger, commercial projects. So the scope of work for what he's used to is much more manageable than for him. So it's one of those things where maybe speak a little bit to what you think your strengths are and how have you filled in the gaps, especially as you start to scale, because obviously at a certain point, your team that you currently have is probably going to need to expand at some point, because if you guys are going to be taking all these big projects. So I'm kind of curious about what your thought process is as you're continuing to scale?
Yeah, I think the biggest step I would say, well, I guess I'll start kind of from a little bit at the beginning. I was doing a lot of the work on our first flips. Once we started getting into 2-3 flips a year, then I was more stepping back into the project management. I was making sure materials were on site, needed to be there in a certain time frame, making sure inspections were getting done, permits were being filed.
Hey, can we chat for a second? Since you're listening to this podcast, you're already thinking like a developer. You see the potential in your community, and you're ready to do more than just watch from the sidelines. That's exactly why we created the Local Developer Vault. It's a free resource full of tools, templates, and trainings to help you take action. And here's the best part. When you sign up, you'll also get access to our local real estate developer community. It's full of people just like you who are making real things happen in their neighborhoods. So don't just listen to the stories. Become the next one that we spotlight on our show. The link in the show notes to unlock the vault and join our movement.
I was also acquiring the properties as well, finding the properties. And then I also handled, and our credit handled, all of the financing. So any financing that needed to be done, my in-laws and that team, I'll just call them a team, they came in and did all the project on-site work that needed to be done. So, I mean, starting out, if you need to swing the hammer first to get going, that's where it needs to, it needs to start. And it does help, in my opinion, when you're doing smaller projects, especially on the residential side. I think it does help give you a grander scope to understand the whole process when you go from swinging the hammer to stepping out a little bit, handing that off. It's that growth progression, like you were saying. And then now I would say I'm still kind of sitting in that role, but I've just built the team out that's working on sites to be bigger. So I have my brother-in-laws, they're building out one of our single family new construction that's currently right now. They're taking on all the finishing stages all the way to the end. We have a duplex that's getting built right now. That one I worked more with we don't call them prefab, call them whatever you want. They build all the stick built slabs in their warehouse and then bring them out and set them. And so it can be framed up in 2 days kind of deal. So I have that, but I have our same subs working on all these different sites. I've built that relationship. And I would say that is the big key or ticket to why we're able to expand and be able to be doing 3 projects all at the same time. I'm using the same HVAC guy. I'm using the same electrician. I'm using the same plumber. Pay your contractors on time and quickly, and they will always answer your phone call. Sorry, that was a little thing of, you want to build relationships, you want to build out teams, you want to build out consistency. Make sure you are paying all those guys on time. Sorry, that was random, but it happens.
That's a great point.
And it kills relationships. So yeah. So that's how I expanded out. I think our next step is truly bringing on a full-time project manager, which my wife and I have been talking about. We've got a guy that we're really interested in. He's got a solid job right now, but if we make these next steps into the opportunities that are in front of us, I would be the bottleneck of the company at that point, and I would only keep us from growing. So really being able to step back is what needs to happen right now.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And another great point you made was regarding, keeping those relationships healthy with your contractors, and just making sure that when the work's done and it's done to a standard that you appreciate, then you get them paid quickly, because that, to your point, they probably have other jobs that they are working on as well. And if they have a good relationship working with you, you better believe that if the next project comes around and you give them a call, they're going to make time to be able to make sure that they can get out to get that work done, because they know that you're someone who's going to pay them quickly once the work's complete.
Absolutely. Yep, exactly. So yeah, overall it's been a great process and learning a ton. That's the biggest thing. I'm trying to build out systems and processes, which have been happening, but I'm constantly tweaking them. That's another thing too. It's never going to be perfect. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new construction builds in the last 2 years, and I'm still learning a ton. So it takes time, it takes patience, it takes the ability to humble yourself and ask questions to other people, and you don't have to have the answer every single time. So I don't know. yeah, that's a lot of stuff that I'm learning right now.
So true. Like, and as you're in the weeds of all of that, how, you get hit with a curveball and you go, oh crap, a crisis comes up or whatever on a project. And we didn't really touch on, do you guys raise any capital? But like, is there any investor money at risk on top of your own? And so how do you stay motivated through all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we motivated. That's just something I feel like God has given me. I will never stop working. My hands are always going to be moving. My mind's always going to be moving. It's hard when we go on vacation for my mind to shut off. I'm always thinking business. I do sometimes question if there's something wrong with me, because that's just how my mind functions. So from a motivation standpoint, there's a deeper why, and it's more personal. And that why is, so my parents aren't really in our lives, grandparents wise. And from my wife's side, they really aren't in our lives either. So there's no real quote unquote grandparents, right? My why is when my kids grow up and they have a family and they have kids, I want to be within 24 hours, wherever they end up in the country, the world, whatever, 48 hours if they're out of our country. I want to be at their front door within 24 hours, and I never want to have to look at my bank account. I want to be there for the grandkids. I want to be there for our kids. And so that is deep down, that is my why of what I'm trying to build and what, yeah. The other why is I do have a goal, and this is maybe, I don't know, some people can judge me for it, whatever. I want to be able to give $1 million away in 1 year. That is a goal that I have as well, that I've written down 3 years ago. So yeah, those are my couple whys, and see how we can glorify God through all of our projects and helping people and the community and creating affordability as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and obviously we appreciate you sharing that, because I feel like it's important for people to find a deeper meaning to what they do on a day-to-day outside of just the monetary piece. Because obviously money is important because it'll provide you with, it's a tool to be able to provide you with a life that you want, but at the end of the day, there's a deeper reason for it. It's not just the act of pursuing that tool. There's your family. There's the wanting to be there for them at any moment in time without having to worry about what the obligations are within your day to day. It's about giving back to others, which I think is probably the one of the biggest meanings of life is helping others, regardless of what your motivations are. It's really just being of service to others is a big reason for people, in my opinion, to exist. So I think that you kind of hit a nail on the head with 2 reasons why people are so, and in particular your case, why you're so driven to do what you've got to do.
Yeah, and I love sharing stories like that, because it shows that no, we're not just the big greedy developers. Like literally, here's the people behind it, the humans behind it, the whys that are driving it, and that's what's important. Versus, hey, it's a big greedy developer. No, that's not the why.
And the other thing too, we haven't been able to really touch on like our current projects and stuff of what we're doing, and I know we're getting close to time. What we are building out from a bread and butter standpoint, what I call bread and butter, is we are building out smaller homes. So our homes are 1,200 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath. We have options of slab on grade or with a basement, and then we're attaching a larger 30 by 40 garage. My goal is to be able to sell these on 1 acre chunks for $299. Whether that's going to be possible or not, I don't know. Obviously, the more we build at one time, the better I can get prices, quantity, bulk pricing and stuff. But as for that, is what I want to be known for in the community, is we were able to provide affordable, high quality housing for the locals to meet our median income, because we are short. And I'm sure, Raphael, I mean, you work on the commercial side of things as well too, but you see it on the residential, and same thing with you, Kristi, is like we're short all over the world, or all over our country. And it's not going to change. People are, the money is not in affordability to build out homes. And that's another thing too. We want to be able to make an income off of it, obviously to provide for my family and for our living. But I don't need to be making a ridiculous amount of money by building a $1.5 million house for a customer. I would rather be building, and making a small profit on a house for our local community that gets the majority of the people here in a home. And so that's kind of what our goal and our focus is with our construction that we are doing and what we're looking at. And
the social impact is huge. So when you look at that, what size properties are you looking to acquire to then are you buying larger lots and subdividing, and then that way you can sell them off? And then too, maybe because we've had other people talk, if you're doing a bunch at one time, do you have builder loans to where you can lock in rates to help buyers get better rates too? Or is it early enough in the concept that you're not there yet?
I've started conversations with this. A lot of our what we're looking at, we qualify a lot for USDA loans here in central Wisconsin. And with the USDA loans, if we go directly with USDA, we get a lower or not us, the buyer would get a lot lower interest rate. And this is a no money down option. So building new construction, talking with the local USDA director, they were jacked that we were building this as an option and wanting us to give them a call as soon as we're ready to start selling them. They did have options for us to use to have for the development of what we're building out. But he was very hesitant. He's like, I have those funds and stuff, but there's a lot of red tape that you have to go through to keep that funding and to manage that funding and extra inspections and more paperwork and audits and all this other additional stuff that right now with our own liquid funding that we're doing, as well as I've got 2 private investors that are helping us out, just small guys, but they, that is the route. He's like, I'd recommend you keep going down that route. It'll be a lot easier for you to pump out houses and for you to be able to then just send the buyers over to us and we'll get them in those homes in 2 seconds. So that's the route I think we're going to end up going once we start building out, getting more homes on the market.
And then do you just rough to give the audience some ideas of what maybe the land and the building costs just roughly would be? I know you said you're trying to get the sale price at $299, but
so we're paying all our subs out, all the brother-in-laws are, out, but we do have splits at the end as investors. We all in cost, we're going to be sitting at that like $225 to $235. So that's us buying the land in larger bulk. So we have, when we're breaking it down into smaller lots, we're not paying lot value prices here. A 1 acre lot in our area is, might cost us $35,000, where when we're buying larger chunks, we're able to get that lot, entitlements, maybe, road frontage, we're able to keep that cost down to closer to like 15. So
nice.
It just, it helps reduce the costs on that front. So yeah, I would gladly go into the weeds on numbers and stuff. I do all that stuff as well too. And we deal with a lot of septics. We don't deal with a lot of city sewer and water and septics and wells here. So we are looking at, with these smaller subdivisions, shared wells. We're looking at possible shared septic systems. We are a very green area of the state. And so we have a lot of people keeping their eyes on water quality, extra eyes, I should say, on water quality and ground and soil quality around here. So, which is fine. I'm completely fine with it, but it's just extra little steps we got to walk through.
And then if they're doing shared, we had someone else with shared parking earlier. If they're doing shared wells or if they're doing shared septic, what type of agreements do they have between owners, or how does that work?
Yeah, so all that stuff is created by me or our company, and we are slapping it right on the title work. So it is black and white how it is to function and how it is to work. So there's no essentially agreement between the new owners that would have the property unless they agreed upon something mutually and changed the title work that is recorded at the county level. But yeah, it's from a shared well perspective, we might have costs of any repairs are split 50%, but then the person who holds the electricity that runs the pump and the pressure tanks and all that stuff, they usually get, $150 per year from the other owner. So it just depends on the size of the well and so forth. So that's what we see here. The septic systems, we haven't gone down that route yet. Each of them would still have their own holding tanks, but then just the field itself would be at the expense of shared costs. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've started to learn more and more about these different systems. Obviously you got general sewer from the city level, but then you start getting out into different parts of the country, and you've got septic, and you've got leach fields, and you've got all this other stuff that I'm still not the most familiar with, but it's something you need to kind of figure out as you're going through the process of developing. Because to your point, I think you talked a little bit offline about how a parcel that you were looking at didn't necessarily have access to sewers or access to some of the utilities, and you're kind of having to think through that as a developer: is how am I going to bring it to this place, or who do I need to work with in order to make sure that the city can do so? And it's definitely a long, thoughtful process you have to take. So, but
Absolutely.
I appreciate all the time. Yeah, I appreciate all the discussion we've had so far. So, one of the things we like to ask is, if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring developers, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be anything like super elaborate, but I'm just kind of curious as to what your thoughts process is.
I think the first thing, you will feel defeated. You will feel alone. You will feel that fear that we talked about in the beginning. All of those emotions will flood you at some point in time. Whether you're doing flips, whether you're doing development, whether you're doing commercial stuff, you will hit a wall. There will be a wall. I can guarantee you that wall. But having the ability to push through that wall is what is going to make or break you. And it's also going to make or break you when you're 85 years old, sitting in your bed or in your rocker, drinking a cup of coffee and thinking, man, I'm glad I pushed through that wall. I think having that perspective is, in those moments, and being able to just take a step back and understand that this is not the end of the world and I need to push through. I think that is, like, if I can encourage anybody on that, it's push through, take that risk, still do risk mitigation, but take that risk and push through that wall, because it is forever which way is going to help you mentally, physically, financially, emotionally. It will be the benefit to your life that you probably don't expect in that moment. So I don't know if that's clear as mud or not, but that's how I look at things. And encouragement, because you feel all those emotions, and how you deal with them. It's gonna shape whether you continue in doing it or not. So,
yeah, emotional regulation in entrepreneurship is extremely important.
Right.
I tell people all the time, you're going to have really high highs and you're going to have really low lows. And in order for you to get through it, you have to find a way to stay even keel in any of those situations. Because, I mean, again, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
When. Yeah, my uncle's greatest lesson before he passed away in 2018 was never too high, never too low. This too shall pass. And it pissed me off at first because I'm like, we have really exciting news. And yeah. And then something really horrendous would happen, and like my whole community being wiped out in a hurricane. And it's like, good, bad, right, or wrong. Like, time heals everything. And it's like, yeah, no, the good and the bad and the everything's going to come. The next mountain's going to come. And just being very present and enjoying the journey and finding the good in every situation, because it will come around, but knowing that it, shouldn't beat you up and keep you down forever.
Yep. And pour into yourself. Keep learning, keep pouring in, spend the extra dime to go to conferences, to get that extra mentor, pay for a business coach, whatever. Like, some people think I'm crazy. I have a business coach. I pay for it. I pay a ridiculous amount for it. But that business coach is what actually got me to quit, to step away from my W-2 job. Like, they encouraged me. It took them a year to be able to get me to do that. And he was the reason why my wife and I both said, yep, this is where we need to be right now. And so it's been tenfold. I would never be where I'm at right now, thinking of what I'm thinking about today and working where I'm working right now, if we wouldn't have made that step. I wouldn't be on this podcast. I wouldn't be talking with you guys right now if I wouldn't have made that step in March. I honestly wouldn't. So that's pour into yourself, education, pay for it. It's worth it. And yeah, push through. That is the life of an entrepreneur.
Great advice. That's awesome. Well, Jeremiah, we really appreciate you hopping on the podcast with us and sharing your insights. And we're really looking forward to keeping in touch with you over the course of your journey. And I'm looking forward to, if you have social media, I'm looking forward to keeping in touch that way as well. And one thing we'd like to ask is, if you want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you're doing, what's the best way to be able to do that?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of old school, if you will. Facebook is where I'm at. That's pretty much the only place I'm at. I do have an Instagram account, but I just have an assistant that kind of runs that and uses promotions on there. I mean, they'll forward it on to me, but Facebook's where I'm active. Facebook Messenger, DM me that way. But yeah, I love to have conversations. Love to talk real estate investing. Gets me jacked up, and I only wish that everybody would be able to really take that leap and trust in themselves to get into real estate. Real estate is a very forgiving class of investment if you hold it long term. So it's, I would love everybody to have it.
Hey, and if even one person's life changes because of what you shared today, boom, that's worth it.
Amen. Amen.
Well, Jeremiah, we really appreciate your time, and we'll make sure to include your links that you just described in the show notes. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and access it via the description, and same goes for Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, great. Thanks again for your time. For everyone who is watching on YouTube, again, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge impact on our ability to reach a broader audience, and we greatly appreciate the support. Along with that, if you guys are watching this or listening to this in a podcast format, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please, please, please leave a 5-star review. The more people that we can reach, ultimately, the more people will be inspired to take on their first real estate development project. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.